Boy, it sucks when the worst news or the biggest news to come out of a Monday recap show is a piece of news you find out first thing on Tuesday morning. And friends, it's bad. It's real bad. Breaking from Shams Charania, Dallas Mavericks All-Star Kyrie Irving has suffered a season-ending torn ACL in his left knee. And we pour one out for another superstar. Done. For the duration of this year. And this one sucks especially hard because this is going to seep into next season because ACLs take at least typically like 9 months to come back from. So one would assume that Kyrie's playing in the NBA at earliest like a month to 2 months into next season, and then probably longer than that. So this sucks. It sucks in so many ways. And it sucks like 50 times larger because the Mavericks, there's never been a team more decimated than what happened to Dallas over like the last 3 weeks. This is crazy. Absolutely insane. Look at what's left of the Mavericks on your screen right now, people. So Irving is now done. Also, by the way, Jaden Hardy, a badly sprained ankle in yesterday's ball game, as if they needed more stuff to put on top of it. PJ Washington is out with his recurring ankle situation. Anthony Davis is out for multiple weeks with his adductor situation. You've got Derek Lively still out. You've got Daniel Gafford still out. They traded Quentin Grimes for an injured Caleb Martin for reasons I really can't understand. I think it's contractual stuff, but like you sent a healthy guy away and you picked up a dude who wasn't even healthy enough to play. And now you've got bleh. So this is the top story without question. If you have Kyrie Irving on your team, go ahead and drop him, unfortunately. And definitely don't draft him next year because it's going to be a mess. Unless you're in like a keeper format, maybe you can get him in like the 8th, 9th round and sit on him for half the year. That's a different monster. What we saw in yesterday's ball game was, I think, other than PJ Washington, a pretty good example of what the next few games, one would think, will be like, maybe even few weeks, for the Dallas Mavericks. Dwight Powell started but did nothing. Okay, great. We can wipe him off the do we care list. Olivier Maxence Prosper played 17 minutes. We can likely ignore him as well. Kessler Edwards started and played 22 minutes, but that's probably PJ Washington's spot if or when he does resurface. So I would probably not deal with the Kessler Edwards, basically the power forward spot. So where we're looking for stuff right now is basically all guard minutes. Where are those going to go? And center minutes, because remember, they're down both of their centers also. Arguably three guys that are playing center, but one of them that was going to get pushed down to power forward. So in yesterday's ball game, let's just look at who had usage. That, believe it or not, is typically the best way to look at it. And the usage rate yesterday was Kyrie Irving, number one, at 31.7. And we're at Basketball Monster right now where you can see all of these stats. Kyrie's done, so we don't have to worry about that. Spencer Dinwiddie was number 2 on the team in usage at 30, roughly, in his 27 minutes off the bench. He had 10 points, 3 boards, 6 assists, a steal, and a three-pointer while shooting 2 out of 12 from the field and 5 of 6 at the free throw line. Okay, good to know. Dante Exum actually had a pretty high usage rate, but is not good. So I'm not going to worry too much about that, at least for the moment. And if he starts to do something better, then I'll change my tune. Naji Marshall at 25 was a notable one. He had 18 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, and good percentages in this ball game. And I'm inclined to say that Naji Marshall is probably a guy that belongs on fantasy rosters. I don't know that I'm 100% married to the idea, but when you've now taken all of the usage guys out of the equation, there's really only so much that Spencer Dinwiddie can do. The problem with Naji Marshall is that his fantasy game is only a little bit well-rounded. Like it's kind of there. We haven't really seen what a Naji Marshall good fantasy consistent game would look like because even in his 25 minutes a game this year, he's still only taking 8 to 9 shots a night. Is that the thing that changes now with Kyrie Irving out? Because you can look at his recent game log on Naji Marshall, and you can see, like, okay, where was he taking more shots? It was only when he was warm. When he went cold, he just stopped shooting altogether because his minutes went down, and presumably there were just other guys that could go take the shots. But pretty much any time Marshall has gotten to 10 shots or more, he's been fantasy playable. I thought I was going to sneeze, if you're wondering why I paused that time. I thought we were going to have our first on-air sneeze of the season, which I made in a long time. I think it's allergies. We'll know by later today. So go ahead and pick up Naji Marshall because he's going to have to actually do some ball handling, meaning there's a little bit of an assists upside with him. He's already at 2.7 assists a game in his 25 minutes. If the minutes do go up to 30 or more and the ball handling increases, it's sort of a double whammy. In a good way. A good double whammy. Double bonus. Big money, no whammies. Marshall's a good percentages guy. He's shooting 49% from the field, 85% at the free throw line this year. So extrapolate that. That's good. More positives is always better. So I'm inclined to say go ahead. If there was no usage bump, Naji Marshall playing 30 minutes a game would put him right around the edge of the top 100, 115 range. The upside for Naji is that there is a usage bump, that the extra 20% of his time on the floor doesn't just translate to 1.8 additional shots, but to 2.5 or 3. And, it doesn't translate to an extra half an assist, but a full assist. So there's this extra click that goes with it that pushes him inside the top 100. So I say go for it on Naji Marshall. I think Max Christie belonged on rosters already. I think there's an actual, a very real shot that he ends up starting, but we'll see how that thing shakes out. So Max Christie, I'm staying good with him. Kai Jones is an interesting one because the Mavs literally signed him yesterday, I think. I think it was earlier in that same day, unless it was the day before, and I just got my days mishmashed. It's a very real possibility. I can't, the days run together, and normally I would have said, don't worry about it at all, but okay, here we are. So thrown directly into a whole bunch of playing time, the Kai Jones situation becomes kind of a nebulous one. Kai is on a 2-way contract, so there's only so many games that he can play. I don't know, and this is where my knowledge of front office stuff leaves me a little bit dry. I don't know what the Mavericks can do in terms of, whether or not they could actually sign him beyond that. But at least in the short term, he's probably going to have to play. The reason I'm not as excited about Kai is, number one, he's not going to shoot 9 out of 10 most ball games. I don't know that he's going to play 34 minutes most ball games, but maybe he does here in the short term. But I also think that a return of PJ Washington is going to hurt him. It's going to hurt Kessler Edwards. There's a lot that would get sort of shifted PJ's way. So if you want to go try Kai Jones, you could probably do it in the very short term. But I have some trust issues there. Klay Thompson should probably end up getting to do enough in the wake of this Kyrie thing, but also his game is very limited. And at this stage of his elderly career, he kind of needs somebody else to get him open, and I don't know that there's anybody on the team that can actually get him open anymore. So I'm a little worried about Klay. Maybe he just starts jacking up shots like they're going out of style. That would be swell. That would be good for his fantasy value, and frankly, it's probably worth rostering him just to kind of see how that goes, but I'm not that excited about it. And then Spencer Dinwiddie is a guy who's going to get picked up in a lot of leagues because he profiles as the traditional hyper punt guy. He's probably going to average 5 or more assists. He's probably going to get about a steal. He's probably going to score, 13, 14 points. And on paper, that's going to sound pretty good, but he's going to do it while shooting 40% on a dozen shots a game. So Dinwiddie profiles as, I think, probably a 9-category fail, but as a hard punt potential winner. And that's where we stand on the Mavericks. Welcome to the show, everybody. Please take a moment here, since we've already launched headlong, to subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. We have another show coming up later on today. By the way, I'm not done with this show. We have a whole card to go through, but we're doing a streaming show every single day right now to get you guys ready for your fantasy playoffs every single day. So subscribe no matter how you're taking in the content. That is a really big deal. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're listening after the fact on a traditional pod channel, throw that 5-star review in the mix. That is extraordinarily helpful. And Bet Online continues to be your number one source for online betting in 2025 and the world's most trusted betting platform. Whether you're a noob, N00B, or a seasoned fan, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. People just speak and think highly of Bet Online because it is reliable. It has the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA to college hoops, NHL, UFC. I mean, you can go to their homepage at Bet Online and see all the tabs across the top that you can mess with. So from every three-pointer to hat trick, Bet Online can get you covered with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. Let's go back to the top of the board. Let's zip through the rest of the games from yesterday because, I mean, the Kyrie thing was obviously the big one. Philadelphia lost to Portland. Who cares? The Blazers, no real surprises on the Portland side. Denny Avdia having a bad game with no Jeremy Grant was a little bit of a surprise, but as long as Grant is out, Avdia's got to be a guy you start. Donovan Clingan didn't have foul trouble in this one, so it went much better. Shaedon Sharpe is running very, 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 very hot right now. Play him while he's hot, specifically in head-to-head leagues. We've talked about him being a nice punt play for head-to-head. Roto, I'm still too terrified to do it. But again, if he's rolling this hot, you probably could play him anywhere until he cools back off again. Philly was kind of the other big story of the night that got buried in it. Tyrese Maxey took a tough fall and hurt his back in that ball game. And I don't know how long he's going to be out, but it seems like it's going to be more than like a few hours. I really don't know, guys. I really don't know. But what this does is it opens up even more in Philadelphia, where Joel Embiid is already out for the year, and Paul George didn't play in this ball game either. So you had a lot of really weird stuff going on. How do we pull it all together? Let's assume that Tyrese Maxey is going to miss a little bit of time. That likely leaves enough shots for Quentin Grimes to be very good almost every day now, as opposed to some of the time he was on rosters anyway. Justin Edwards was having a nice ball game, and then he went down with an ankle injury as well. I legitimately don't know who the hell is left. I'm assuming we see Paul George soon, so PG's a play. Andre Drummond, if he's really going to get close to 30 minutes, he's an easy yes, especially if you're punting free throws. And Drummond was a guy who I suggested as just a play for the hot schedule this week, but now he kind of looks like a play you can use anywhere. Gershon Yabusele only took 5 shots in 35 minutes, but again, with all of these other guys out, he just kind of has to be better than that. So I think Yabusele is probably a guy you could start in most formats as well. And then Lonnie Walker is the question mark here. He got 8 shots off the pine. He's not going to get 2 steals and 2 blocks in most ball games. I think with Walker, if you badly needed points and threes, he's a guy you could look at, but you can't rely on him for other stuff. Even with all these other guys out, again, we're talking about, if Maxey's out and Edwards is out and Walker gets to start and plays 30 minutes, he'll get 10, 11 shots, and he'll score 10 to 15 points, maybe even a little bit more than that on a good night. But he doesn't do enough other stuff. We've seen this over many years. So make sure Drummond is on rosters, Grimes is on rosters, Paul George, when he gets back here, I would think Yabusele as well, and then we'll feel the rest of it out. I don't think you have to get in front of anything else. Warriors took care of a Hornets team that really doesn't even count as a basketball team these days. They're just like, Charlotte is embarrassing, but they actually had their guys in for this game, so that's something. Warriors had their guys in as well, although Steph had to depart with an ankle thing, possibly because it was a blowout. Might have been precautionary. We'll find out by later today because the Warriors play again. If the Warriors have their main guys, and I know Buddy Hield had a big ball game here, but don't be tricked. It's going to be Butler, Podziemski, Steph, and Draymond. Those are the 4 guys you can play for Golden State. Anything else? Buddy Hield is a threes streamer only. Moody is more of a threes and a little bit of defensive stats stream. Quentin Post is a threes guy. There just really isn't anybody else that I'd want to play in a more significant fashion. Charlotte's a pretty easy one to handicap. They played their three main guys, Miles Bridges, Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball, and those are the three guys that you should use in a fantasy lineup. If Mark Williams sits in an upcoming back-to-back, which I presume he will, Yusuf Nurkic would be the guy to drop in as a fill-in play. There is no fill-in play for LaMelo Ball. Easy. That's an easy one, guys. Charlotte's an easy one. Washington is not, and I'm upset because my dude Keyshawn George got whacked in the face and is now questionable going forward with a jaw issue. But he was in the midst of another bad shooting game with a super well-rounded rest of his fantasy line. Keyshawn George is this close to being a game breaker kind of dude with 10 points, 8 boards, 5 assists, a steal, 2 3-pointers. He does a little bit of everything. He just can't make a damn bucket. Try to hold on Keyshawn if you can. Bub Carrington has been admittedly better lately. I still only trust him in head-to-head builds where I'm not as worried about some of his shortcomings as opposed to 9-cat. I've been telling you guys for weeks that it's been long since time to give up on the Bilal Coulibaly thing, at least for this year. Keep an eye on Justin Champagnie. Doesn't need to be rostered right now. Chris Middleton should be rostered in games cap formats, but probably not in regular old head-to-head. Although, again, like if you can handle what's liable to be a missed game here and there, because Washington everybody has a few back-to-backs hanging in there lately. You'll get, that's a bad one. Middleton will have a 2-game week in week 22 in head-to-head. So I think I'm going to stick with my take that he really should just be a games cap dude and don't worry about it elsewhere. And then at the center spot, just when you thought that with Kuz gone and Valanciunas gone, that Alex Sarr could just roll to the finish line, they've capped him out at 25 minutes anyway. I am officially moving off of Alex Sarr on today's podcast. You heard it here because Rashawn Holmes is playing well enough to get 20 minutes a night. Both of those guys are, and this is good for Rashawn and bad for Sarr, both of those guys are scheduled play only. And even Bilal is a scheduled play. Like almost everybody's a scheduled play this time of year. But rest of season guys is basically just Keyshawn George and if Jordan Poole ever comes back. And then Bub is a rest of season head-to-head but not roto. Middleton is a roto but not head-to-head. See if that made any sense. Bam Adebayo got to start at center because Khalil Ware was out. That allowed Kyle Anderson to play 25 minutes. So, the hell do I care? Kevin Love resurfaced from the abyss for 12 minutes. Pelly Larson got 28 minutes. I mean, if you can figure out who the hell's going to play for the Heat on a given night, have at it. No Davion Mitchell in this ball game either, so that allowed Terry Rozier to get a start at point guard. If that happens again, I would say definitely stream Rozier because they just need guys that can go do some stuff. But I mean, Miami does not play again today. They play tomorrow at Cleveland, and then they've got a back-to-back Friday, Saturday. Keep an eye on the Davion Mitchell thing. This is more for leagues where you don't have a moves limit. And if we find out that Mitchell's going to miss another game, I would throw Rozier in there. And in a league that doesn't have a moves cap. For leagues where you only have 4 moves a week, I don't think that I'm doing much with Miami unless, like, if you rode someone for the back-to-back today and tomorrow, you could pick up a Heat for 3 games and 4 nights. Or not today and tomorrow. If you rode the back-to-back of someone yesterday and today, you could pick up a Heat for going 3 games and 4 nights starting tomorrow on Wednesday. And the guys that fit that bill are Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith, freaking Alec Burks here lately, although that's not going to be the case when Andrew Wiggins comes back. So Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith, and if Mitchell is out, you could go Terry Rozier over that stretch. I would not trust Kyle Anderson all that much. We'll have to wait and find out more on the Khalil Ware thing, but that would maybe change my tune there. Nothing we can do today, though. Like, there's literally no one on this team you need to go out and pick up. This is a wait and see until tomorrow. Atlanta, we talked on our streaming show. This was like a big streaming win situation here. The Hawks had a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, and we knew George Niang was out, at least for the Monday game. So I basically said, look, you can take almost any fringe Hawk for the back-to-back. You could even ride him for 4 games in 6 days if you want, because 4 games in 6 nights from any of these fringe wing guys is probably going to end up being, in aggregate, good enough. And instead, we got huge games from two of them. Zachary Reese-Shea and Karis LeVert could almost do nothing the rest of the week, and you'd still feel good about that stream. Don't use those guys against a games cap, though. It's asking a lot. They had to run very, very hot to put up these big numbers. But head-to-head, they're great plays this week. Terrence Mann was not my favorite, but even he was okay. And then Clint Capella was your same situation. You were just hard hunting field goal percent, boards, and blocks, and he got you field goal percent and a block. But, there's only 3 guys on Atlanta that you're going to roll every day the rest of the season, and that's Okongwu, Trae Young, and, of course, Dyson Daniels. Grizzlies, their bodies are going the wrong way too, although hopefully not as significant. Jaren Jackson turned his ankle in the first couple minutes of this ball game. He was ruled out for the remainder. Ja Morant is still dealing with that shoulder, which been bothering him on and off throughout the season. Bane was back and put up a monster of a triple-double. When Ja Morant is out, Luke Kennard is the play. If Jaren Jackson has to miss any ball games, Zach Edey becomes a very safe play, as does, if he comes back first, Santi Aldama, but he was also out for this ball game, which opened things up for Jalen Wells. It opened up a little bit more for Brandon Clark. It opened up a little more for Vince Williams Jr. It opened up a little more for Gigi Jackson. There's too many of those a little bit more spots. You need to look for the guys that are close to being fantasy startable, where a little bit more gets them over the hump. So that's Kennard and Edey, basically. So again, we can't really do much today because we don't know what the status of these guys is going to be tomorrow. They take on Oklahoma City in what's suddenly becoming a game that Memphis really wants to win, because they're all the teams at the top, not the Thunder, but all the teams in that upper chunk have been falling lately, and the Lakers and Nuggets are just sort of blowing their way up the board. So what do we do? Well, today, you can watch the news today to see if anything pops up on any of the Grizzlies. It hasn't yet, but it's still early in the morning, Pacific time at least. And, if we get a negative report on Jaren Jackson, then great. Lean in on Edey and Aldama. If we get a negative report on Ja Morant, lean in on Luke Kennard. If those guys are expected to be back, then you go back to just playing the main 3 dudes, and the rest of these guys, Kennard, Edey, Wells, Clark, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they all go back to just being schedule streams anyway. Get it? Got it? Good. Let's keep going. Houston sat everybody, so we're just going to jump right over this ball game because those guys are all going to be back for the next one. Screw you, Rockets. Oh, I zoomed out, didn't I? All right, I'll make it bigger again. Sorry, guys. The Thunder this is what they are at this point. They're Shea, who went crazy for 50 again. What a monster of a year he's having. Shea's put himself, he's the number 1 player, I think, by totals right now, right? Because of how many more games he's played than Jokic. 5 extra games. Yeah. Shea's number 1 by totals. He and Jokic are just boat racing the league in all of this stuff, especially since Wemby went down and Anthony Davis went down, but he had fallen off a bit before then anyway. I'll admit, I thought Shea was going to drop down towards number 6 this year, and instead he's gotten better. Congrats, Shea. There was that big discussion at the beginning of the year, Shea or Luka at the 3 spot. And I happened to end up with the 3 pick in 2 different leagues, and I took one of each of them. One of those teams is running away in first place, and the other one is mired in 6th, although some of that's because Luka's missed 2 months, and LaMelo's missed 2 months, and who the hell else? I think my top 3 picks in that league are all on pace to play 45 ball games. That one didn't go so great. But, it's why you can diversify your assets a little bit. And the one where I have Shea is the biggest money league I'm in. So great. You go the right way in the right one, and everybody comes home with a new television. Otherwise, here in Oklahoma City, you got your main guys, Shea, Jalen, Hartenstein, and Holmgren. Those guys are the easier calls. Hartenstein, not quite as awesome with Chet out. Cason Wallace has kind of ramped back up, and he's taken a lot of the sort of first crack at the bench minutes. You could play him if you wanted to. He's a steals stream. Aaron Wiggins is a points and efficiency stream who got a couple of rebounds here. Caruso got hurt, so that takes him off the board. Lou Dort is I guess, a threes stream. But again, none of those guys that I just mentioned, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, Aaron Wiggins, I already forgot one of them that I said. None of those guys is a play them every day dudes. You're looking, you're hunting, you're trying to find when OKC's schedule lines up right. And, you're probably looking like Sunday of this week through Sunday of next week. They have 5 games over those 8 days. That's a pretty good little stretch for OKC, and that's where you could use some of those types of guys. We already talked Dallas in this one. What happened on the Sacramento side? Well, we know that Domantas Sabonis is out for a decent chunk of time. We assume a few weeks. We don't know exactly how long. So Jonas Valanciunas belongs on all rosters. Keon Ellis is the more question marky one. Now, it's worth noting that this game was over early. So, most of the Kings regulars only played 24, 25 minutes. A couple of them cleared that mark. Jake LaRavia also got 28 minutes, and Trey Lyles got 20, which, by the way, I had a couple people in my mentions that were like, Jonas Valanciunas is going to play 35 minutes a game. He's not, but he's going to be good enough. So, expect good things from JV, but don't expect him to, win you your league. He's going to be excellent, but not, early round pick. I think everybody's question is around Keon Ellis because he had a really good game in the contest where Sabonis went down. And this one really couldn't have gone any worse. He had 2 blocks, 2 rebounds, and an assist in 27 minutes while shooting 0 of 7 from the field. Thing is, though, and it's easy to forget this, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because I was hoping to keep today's show in the 30 to 35 minute range. But we always forget that fringe fantasy players, the guys that are in that 75 to 150 range, they all have bad nights. All of them. Look at the ranking board and go look at somebody ranked in the 80s and then look at their game log. You're going to see a lot of bad. Tobias Harris is number 83. He's been playing a lot better lately, but there was a long stretch where he was not good this year. I mean, Onyeka Okongwu was mired in the whole bench situation for the first 2 months of the season, and he's number 86 now. These guys have bad games, and they still turn out okay. So if you're thinking that Keon Ellis is going to be around top 100, this terrible game does not preclude him from being that guy. Am I telling you you have to go out and pick him up? I'm not. I think he's a threes and defensive stats streamer, but it's possible that he ends up good enough in those 3 categories that he does end up as a top 100 guy. But you also kind of need to need the stuff that he is good at. So to me, Keon Ellis probably with Sabonis out, and I don't know what that's going to be, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, or less, more, I don't know. That length of time, Ellis is probably going to be around a top 100 guy. The question is, how many bad games are blended in? Is it going to be a very quiet 10 points, 2 threes, a steal, and a block? Or is it going to be he has 5 threes one game and 1 the next? He has 7 defensive stats one game and 2 the next. It's probably that one. So I actually still think Keon Ellis does belong on a lot of rosters, even after this terrible game. Just make sure he's the right fit. And then finally, Detroit took care of Utah's. This was the split squad for Utah. They had some of their varsity squad out there. They had some of their JV squad. You can see Sexton and Walker Kessler are listed as doubtful for the next one on Basketball Monster. I don't know. We'll see. They play Washington. That's the reason that those guys are listed as doubtful, because they're going up against a team where we know Utah wants to lose. Utah's 15-46. They have, at the moment, the 3rd worst record in the NBA. Can they effectively lose to the Wizards? Do they have to bench everybody? I think they might actually play those guys. We'll see, though. They have a back-to-back, Utah does, at the end of this week, and those guys are going to sit for that one. So we'll see. We won't know until tomorrow. If Kessler sits, Kyle Filipowski's the guy. If Sexton sits, Keontae George is the guy. Isaiah Collier, you can play daily, and everybody else is fly by the seat of your pants on the Utah side. Detroit, Tobias Harris missed this one due to personal reasons, and that's Asar time. Anytime that Tobias is out, Asar Thompson gets to go huge, and he did so here in this ball game. No other surprises. There were no surprises, frankly, on the Detroit side. There was a thing that happened that we knew was going to happen, and we just hope that Tobias Harris is back soon. This is a ball game that the Pistons felt like they could win. Shout out, by the way, to the Pistons, who are now 35-27, 9-1 in their last 10 ball games, and firmly above the play-in in the Eastern Conference. That is freaking impressive, Detroit. I am impressived by that. You know, we haven't done it in a couple of days. Let's see if we can do an Underdog card today. UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up today using promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or just click the link in the show description to unlock 2 promos. One of them is up to $1,000 in bonus cash on your 50% deposit match. The other is a free square, which you can't see on your screen on YouTube because I've already used it up. By the way, remember to subscribe to our page while I'm going through this Underdog card. All you got to do, and I'll just show you an example of this. These are not the things I'm going to do. Whoops, I got to refresh the page because this is a tab that I had open yesterday, and these are no longer accurate. Ooh, a profit boost. It's a profit boost. I love it. It's NBA only profit boost today. I'm going to apply that. So anything that you're doing gets a 50% bump in the payout. That is delicious. And you can use it on any NBA game. It doesn't have to be on the Lakers. They're running this profit boost because LeBron James is 1 point away from 50,000 between regular and playoff basketball. And the Lakers do play tonight. They're hosting the Pelicans, but everybody on the Lakers is questionable. So I don't think that I would take that plunge until we know who's in and who's out. If we're talking about who's in and who's out, Tyrese Halliburton has been playing extraordinarily well lately. I would consider a higher on points, rebounds, and assists because I don't know how he's going to clock that up. Otherwise, in this one, a lot of Rockets got yesterday off. Siakam has kind of been slumping a little bit lately if you wanted to go that way. I don't think Freddie VanVleet even plays in this game. There's a lot of names that I don't think I really want to mess with. But you can look up and down the board here. Toronto, Orlando, Golden State, New York. I wish I knew Steph Curry's status for that one. Milwaukee, Atlanta, Philly, Minnesota. Who's going to be in for that one? Cleveland, Chicago, Brooklyn, San Antonio, Clippers, and Phoenix. Clippers and Phoenix is intriguing. Do they have a Bull projection here? Come on, tell me you got a Bull. There he is. There's Bull. We go over 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists for Bull. I'll tell you what, if we find out he's starting, I might. And then do we want to go Pels Lakers? You're going to want to wait to find out who's in. Lakers have historically done a pretty good job on a lot of guys on the Pelicans, but they also have a pretty different alignment of who's playing. You know who's going to give the Lakers fits is Kelly Olynyk. I'll absolutely go higher than 19.5 points, rebounds, and assists for Kelly Olynyk. He's going to chew the Lakers up. Although, again, they're doing better stuff on defense, so maybe I'll rethink that one. We'll go. You know what? I'm not going to do this right now. I got to wait. At this time of year, here's your PSA on anything related to projections or whatever. You got to wait until close to game time to find out who's in and who's out. So I'm leaning towards Kelly Olynyk, but we got to find out who's playing before we get in there. I'll throw one other name on the board just so you guys can see what it looks like. Do we think Yves Missy has a good ball game or not? I don't know. Nobody thinks he's going to score very much. If we went lower on Missy, it has to be 2 different teams. My bad. So let's just pick somebody on the Lakers. We'll go lower than Jackson Hayes. You can see normally this would be, well, that one has split odds. Confounded. I just want to show the viewers what it looks like. Here we go. Jared Vanderbilt lower. So these are 2 that don't have adjusted odds. You can see normally that would be a 3x. It's 4x instead. So you're getting an extra bonus there because you get your entry fee back, and normally you get 2 times that in addition. Today, because of the odds boost, you can get 3 times that in addition. So you bring back 4x. It's a beautiful thing. Just pick higher or lower on any 2 names or more. I mean, you can throw in more names on there and get crazy with it. And you can see how fast the odds bounce up. You can also flex. There's all these fun ways to play with it. Go hang out with us over at UnderdogFantasy.com. We'll win some stuff together. I'm Dan Vespers. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is your recap show. We'll have a streaming show coming in the next 2 hours right back here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Make sure to subscribe, like, rate, and review on your way out at Dan Vespers, at Dan Vespers on Twitter, DanBesbris. Make sure to find me over there because we do other stuff on the Twitters. And also come hang out with us in Discord right now. It's just a free chat room. That's all it is. That's where I'm doing my nightly recaps these days because Twitter's gone kind of quiet for the NBA. You can also find me on Blue Sky at Old Man Squad. I will see you guys in a couple of hours. Streaming.